And then I feel it, and it gets louder. And when I look, it was the biggest, proudest frog toad, like standing there, like staring at me.
Good to see you. What did you do?
I'm like trying to get this thing off, but I don't want to move a muscle. So the other day there was an arrest made at the Miami Square. PETA was protesting on the square.
Yeah.
This guy calls his sergeant. They end up calling our legal bureau. They got on the phone with the legal bureau to make sure that they had legal sufficiency. The attorney said, "You have it. You can be free to do your job and arrest this guy." And they did finally. They arrested him. By the time they got to the station, they got a call from the mayor's office to release the subject. They released the subject. You can't do that to a police officer because he's now lost his credibility for what?
The real story is he punched me in the nose. Shots fired.
Right.
Drake and Kendrick battle. Justin Nick battle. It's on, sucker. It's on.
If you look at the billboard that happened the other day, I'm sure you heard about it, the Fidel Castro billboard with Donald Trump there.
Oh, we got an audience. Welcome back.
I'm honored.
There you go. We got it. Last time you came, we didn't have an audience. Upgrades.
Yeah,
Upgrades.
I'm telling you, I like it.
Upgrades. Welcome back to the show. Today we have on a guest. I'm going to tell you a little bit about him. He sent me a bio. I'm going to summarize it. Major Mario Knapp, retired 27-year veteran of the Miami-Dade Police Department. He has an array of assignments here. I'm telling you, if you could see in this camera, he has a long list of things that he's done. He's been commanders of many units. He's been involved in almost every aspect of the police department, including the training division, the robbery intervention detail. Shout out to Red Boys. And then a whole bunch of other things. I'm going to let you summarize real quick and take the floor. So
Excellent.
You want to let them know what's going on here?
Yeah, so my name's Mario Knapp. Like he said, I'm a 27-year veteran of the Miami-Dade Police Department. I've held every civil service rank in the department, which means that I was an officer, I was a sergeant, I was a lieutenant, I was a captain, I was a major, I was a captain in 5 different places. So I was an officer in the SWAT team, I was an officer in Liberty City in the HUD unit, I was an officer in the training bureau for some time, and then I got promoted to sergeant. I ran the defensive tactics unit. I was in the tactical narcotics team as a sergeant, and then I got promoted to lieutenant. I was a lieutenant in the Port of Miami, and then I was the RID commander for 5 years. Now, as you know, RID is probably the most highly volatile and most high-profile violent crime initiative in Miami-Dade County, and I did that for 5 years. Then I got brought back to training. I was the use of force subject matter expert for Miami-Dade County ever since the rank of sergeant, which we can go into what that means.
Right.
And then I got promoted to captain. I was a captain in Liberty City at Northside. I was a captain in Kendall. I was a captain in the Warrants Bureau. I got brought back to training, and I was the chief of communication for the Miami-Dade Police Department for a little segment of time there. And then I retired as a major of Special Patrol, where I oversaw and commanded the SWAT team, the bomb squad, the aviation unit, so that's all the airplanes, all the helicopters, Marine Patrol, so all the boats, all the jet skis, all the motors, all the divers, the K-9, the incident management team, which is why I was the operations commander for the Surfside building collapse since day one. I was also in charge of the special events unit or section, which handles all major special events in Miami-Dade and provides police service for that, such as the Marlins games, all the Dolphin games, Super Bowl when it comes down here, F1, the Youth Fair, all of those are considered major special events.
The inside of the Marlins games, because we had the outside.
Right.
How did that work out?
It was contractual.
So
yeah.
You guys just couldn't let that go, huh? So the Orange Bowl
Right.
used to be where the Marlins Stadium was.
Exactly.
Right. So if I do recall, we had the Orange Bowl inside and out. You guys, Miami-Dade County, had the who plays at Marlins in Joe Robbie or whatever it's called now, right?
Yeah.
Where the Dolphins play. So the Marlins built their own stadium. They knocked down the Orange Bowl, which we used to be in charge of on inside and outside. And then you guys were like, hey, we want a piece of that because the Marlins, right? There's a lot of games played at home. So they were like, hey, well, if the Marlins come over here, we're going to lose all these job opportunities. So we want to work out a deal.
Right.
So you guys got the AC.
I was about to say, well, we got the air conditioning.
The air conditioner.
You guys said, we'll take the inside. And we went, okay.
Right.
And you guys take the outside. And
Yeah.
we went, okay. So we get to stand outside and direct traffic. Get everyone in while you guys are in there eating popcorn and handling the inside.
But even the inside, that in off duties, it's and your name is Nick off duty, so you got to
Correct.
know this better than anybody. But it's not really comfortable on the inside too. Yes, there's AC, but
Yeah.
you can't sit down at any point. You're
Yeah.
walking around. I mean, I rather be active. I rather be walking. I rather be jogging every once in a while than to be just standing static for 8 hours.
Yeah.
It's
So
different.
you get, yes, okay, you told a little bit of the secrets. We do direct people in, but once everybody's in, all right, get in your cars
Right.
and just patrol the parking lots.
Right,
So
right.
when we go, and then about an hour before release, or like 30 minutes before release, you go back out on post. There are
Right.
some posts that stay, and then they come across the traffic, but you get to sit and drive around. So
Right.
not to interrupt, but I was just like,
No problem.
Yeah,
So I
special
did
events.
that, but I started the Miami-Dade Police Department Active Shooter Initiative. And that I started when I was a lieutenant. Then later on, I independently chaired. It wasn't that I was told to do it, but I started looking around. It was before Marjorie Stoneman Douglas, and I was looking around and I spotted some deficiencies in just, if you look at the overall response and debriefing a lot of these mass casualty attacks and active shooters around the country, I started realizing, okay, we're not prepared for it. We're still kind of stuck a few years behind.
Yeah.
And I put together what we call our active shooter protocol, which is stop the killing, stop the dying. That was in an overly simplified methodology. That's what we were going to do, and we needed to re-implement this whole thing. So I put together a committee of the most argumentative people that I can find. That are willing to tell me whether, because I had my own idea. I was in the SWAT team. We did all of this.
Yeah.
And but I needed people in that room that were going to tell me if I'm wrong, if I'm barking up the wrong tree.
Yeah.
And we brought in a good crew of people with different disciplines, and we came up with what I consider I labeled it the mass casualty attack protocol, not just active shooter.
Right.
And it's now a national model, I believe.
Nice.
It was the first time we brought together a group that was not just cops, but it was cops, it was dispatchers, it was a fire chief that we brought in. I mean, it was a good group of
that's
people.
good. That's important to involve those the fire department, because they're there trying to assist, right?
Right.
They're the best second responders out there.
I see what you did there. I see what you did there.
Is the scene safe? Yeah, you're good. Come. Okay.
To be
I'm just kidding. All my firefighters out there. I gotta have a firefighter on so they can jab back.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
No, to be honest, they want to go in.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
They want to go
Yeah.
in. And what we did was,
they want to be cops. I get
Yes,
it.
yes.
I'm just kidding. It's again.
Yeah,
my bad.
you know how the reality, we make fun of each other, but
Yes.
every cop wants to be a firefighter. Every firefighter wants to be a cop.
Yeah,
you know?
exactly.
But we did do something, and we put something together where firefighters are actually going in now.
Yes.
Where they weren't before.
Yeah.
And we worked that together seamlessly. When we started the mass casualty attack training, fire rescue now comes out and trains with the cops.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's become it's really important, and it's kind of changing for the whole industry. It affected the whole industry.
I mean, we can talk, if we have a little bit of time, we can elaborate on that later. It's a great training. It's a great advancement in what we used to do. And, I believe that it is going to save lives. And if it not had that model, because we have not seen it here in Miami-Dade County, knock on wood, hopefully we don't. But I don't know the results, but I've trained that model.
Right.
And I'm like, wow, this is a lot better than what we used to do.
Different.
Yeah.
Yeah, and one of the premises behind that, and then we'll go back to the resume or bio, but one of the things that we had identified is that if you look at every one of those incidents, it's 10% tactical.
Yeah.
Everybody thinks that's a SWAT call out.
No.
In fact, there are people who are in the race that said, well, we got to get the SWAT team to train them. No, that's not who you need to train them, That is a total 100% gross motor skill for the uniform cop.
Yeah.
They're the first ones that are going to get there. These scenes are over and done within 6 minutes is the average. The SWAT team wouldn't even get their bootlaces on to get there.
Yeah.
So this idea and this ideology that we're going to sit back and wait for SWAT was wrong. That's what happened in Columbine.
Yeah.
We got better progressively as we went, but we had to change the hat and recognize that the very first thing you got to do, and there's no science behind it, it's 70% incident management.
Yeah.
Managing resources on the way in.
Yep.
And identifying what your priorities are, and that's to stop the person from killing people. The next priority is to stop people from dying who've already been injured.
Right.
And so we had to change our hat, and we did that. And coincidentally, we were in the room when February 14th, Valentine's Day, when the Marjorie Stoneman Douglas thing happened. So it was a matter of, it wasn't a matter of if it was going to happen in South Florida, it was when, and it just happened to our neighbor.
Yeah. They found that bleeding out, right? And a lot of these wounds were preventable. They didn't have to die, but it was find that, search for that person that was already gone. Search an entire building before you can start rendering aid. These people are bleeding out, unfortunately, to where now they're, they modified it. And I don't want to get too far into the weeds because we're getting in there, but we'll talk about that later if we have time. We did do a, I don't know if we recorded that because my DJ over there. Shout out to the DJ. What's going on, babe?
Hello, guys.
My DJ over there, also AKA the boss, let me know that, hey, we're not recording. So we talked a little bit and we weren't recording. But anyways, you were on my previous podcast that I had with Justin, the Donut Shop podcast. Shout out to Justin. He's still doing his thing, by the way.
Awesome.
We decided to, separate, but he's going on and he's continuing the Donut Shop podcast, carrying the torch. He's been to Iceland, interviewing a police officer over in Iceland. He's been linking up with some guys, the Anti-Hero podcast up in Orlando, and now he's taking the Donut Shop podcast and joining a network. I believe it's the Failure to Stop network that he's going to be joining and taking that. So he's doing big things. So if you guys continue to follow him, give him that support. Shout out to Jay. You got some clapping?
Yes, I do.
There you go. Shout out to Jay. And the real story is he punched me in the nose. and he's just a big meanie. So shots fired. Right. Drake and Kendrick battle. Justin Nick battle. It's on, sucker. It's on. Let's see who gets the bigger numbers. I'm just kidding. Love you, Jay. So you were on the podcast last year in September. I think it was your first podcast, right? It
was. It was the first major interview that we had done. I consider major because I this shouldn't be a political position.
Yeah.
This is a law enforcement position, a recognized law enforcement officer. So this was one of the podcasts that I was proud to be on.
Oh, thank you very much. So said let's bring you back, man. You look a lot more comfortable. Last time you had a suit on, and then you took off the jacket. You're like, man, it's getting hot in here. I'm like, yeah, take it off, bro. You took it off.
It's that hot seat thing.
It's a hot seat. So you're back now. I see you got the nice polo. You want to talk a little bit about how the campaign's going? Or let's stop right there for 1 second. If you guys want to, we talked for an hour on your credentials. We went in the weeds. We went in the muck. We went everywhere, here, there, everywhere. It was a Dr. Seuss episode. So go back, check out that episode. We spoke for an hour and change on just your credentials. Then we had another good talk, and that's actually where I've been basing my scenarios because I've had on other candidates. Right. I've been basing my scenario questions off of your podcast. So if you guys want to see some compare and contrast, go back to the Donut Shop. I have it on the playlist, and you can watch it there. This one, I want to kind of get an update. We are going to talk about some new things that are happening, like the Halo bill, the squatters. I want you to educate me on that homeowners association fraud that's going on. And then there's some Russian ships. Let me see if I can talk like the Russians.
It's actually very good.
Thank you very much. They're over in Cuba, so we want to talk about that stuff. So this is going to be an interesting podcast, kind of like an update. But just to start off, can you remind everybody on the platform that you're running on some of the things that you're about?
So interestingly, if you follow the first one, you'll realize nothing has changed other than the landscape. Right. Of the race itself. The state of the race has evolved.
Oh, real quick, when we interviewed, it was just three people, Freddie Ramirez, you, and then there was another candidate that I don't even know if he's still in there. I don't know what he's doing. I don't know if he was in the race at that time.
I think the other guy that was, I think he did qualify, and it was actually two. It was two on the Republican side and two on the Democrat side.
Okay, so since then, like you said, the landscape has changed, right? And it's a little bit of, like, a lot of noise going on.
There's a lot of noise.
Sorry, just to set the stage. Go ahead.
So nothing has changed. I mean, look, the deficiencies that we see are actually the same. As a matter of fact, I feel really, really happy and proud, and it shows that what we're saying makes a difference. We are leading this race. We're at least taking charge and people are following what we say. Because if you really look at all the other candidates, and this is my challenge to the viewers, is look at everything we talked about, look at everything I've talked about, and there's not an independent idea that any other candidate has come up with. That's not what we've been saying ever since June of 2023. So that's indicative of somebody who's in tune, somebody who's leading this campaign cycle, and everyone kind of following across. Some to the point where we even did a video we called it hashtag Platform Pirate, challenging. Look at everything that we do on Instagram and notice how coincidentally 24 to 48 hours after we say something, you have other candidates repeating what we say.
So there's timestamps. So
there's
if
timestamps.
anybody wants to put on their, go ahead.
I'd say go ahead and do it. Put a side by side, timestamp of when we said it and when they said it, and that's gonna inform you. But so nothing has changed. One thing that I think is really, really important for the people to realize is that this is a sheriff's office now. It's not going to be a police department. There's major differences, and I think that fact and the responsibilities of a sheriff are what should be informing people on who to vote on.
Right.
And there's some characteristics, we can get into that, but I think it's really, really important because, look, the sheriff is the law enforcement representative or the police representative of the people, not the government, not the mayor's office, not the commissioners, not to the politicians. The sheriff reports to the people, and that becomes very relevant later.
Whereas now, as of today, it is not that way.
It's not that way.
The director reports to the mayor.
The mayor.
Okay.
Right.
So
Look, to be honest and be clear, the mayor right now is running the police department.
Right.
The director has very, very, very little say in what's happening. As a matter of fact, if you look at when I first started in the police department, there was one director and 3 assistant directors. If you look maybe 4 months ago, there was one director, there's a chief of public safety, a director, a deputy director. There was 6 assistant directors, and there was a person embedded from the mayor's office into the director's office that's making every transfer, every promotion, everything. As a matter of fact, now, when someone gets promoted, they not only have to shake the hand of the director, they have to shake the hand of the civilian that's running the department behind the scenes. So that's the exact reason why we're going back to a sheriff's office, is to make us an independent body from any of that political manipulation. It's not even influence anymore. It's manipulation.
Yeah.
And if that's the case,
can you like, when you say manipulate, can you just give an example? It doesn't have to be specific that this happened, but it's like, let's say this, then this, so people can maybe understand and really get the idea, like, hey, when there's a sheriff, none of this stuff is going to be happening. Right.
So I'll give you an example. So the other day there was an arrest made at the Miami Aquarium. There was a protester, and this should never, ever, ever be the case. But there was some protesters. PETA was protesting on the aquarium.
Yeah.
There was one guy who apparently was a little bit over the top, or way over the top, and he was disrupting everything. Officers are scared to do their job. You have legal sufficiency to arrest them, and they're terrified of doing their job because of the political backlash associated with it. So what happens? This guy calls his sergeant. They end up calling our legal bureau. They got on the phone with the legal bureau to make sure that they had legal sufficiency. The attorney said, you have it. You can be free to do your job and arrest this guy. And they did finally. But remember, look at the number of levels that they went through to verify.
Yeah.
They arrested him. By the time they got to the station, they got a call from the mayor's office to release the subject. They released the subject. And then the sad part is that the statement that was released was, we arrested him by mistake. The officer made a mistake. Well, you can't do that to a police officer because he's now lost his credibility for what?
Yeah.
He didn't do anything wrong.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so you got to remember that some of these protesters, when they are protesting, their ultimate goal is to get arrested to make their political statement.
Yeah.
We can't take that away. Give them what they're asking for. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because there has to be consequences to law,
Yeah.
to breaking the law. There has to be law and order. There is no stability or no predictability in any society when you're allowed to break the law, and do it with impunity. You can't do that.
No consequences.
You can't do that, and especially when now you have politicians determining whether that person should be arrested or not.
And to make the statement clear, if you protest, do you get arrested?
Yeah, I mean, look,
Can you protest without getting arrested? That was
Yes, of course.
That's what I'm trying
Yes.
to say. Yeah.
Look, my role as a sheriff is to protect everyone's constitutional rights.
Okay.
That's the number one goal. Everyone has a First Amendment right to protest, and that's going to be fine. But you got to do it within the confines of the law. Yeah. Now, are there times? Remember that when someone is protesting and they're breaking the law, and the police get there, they've already broken the law. That doesn't mean that we're going to get there and arrest them for what they've done. We're going to give them an opportunity to not get arrested for the crime they've already been that's already committed.
And what would be that crime in that sense? Trespassing? Or?
Well, it depends obviously on the type of protest.
Okay.
But protests should never, ever, ever be violent.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And
of
the
course.
moment they become violent, that's it.
And isn't that a riot at that point?
Of course. Yeah.
Okay.
It's a civil unrest. But our country was built.
That's the new way of saying it.
Right.
It's a riot.
Yeah, it's a freaking riot.
That's what I was saying. You were gonna say the real word. Yeah, it's an effing riot. Yeah.
Look, our country was built on the First Amendment.
Right.
And the right to protest, the right to free speech, the right to say what you want to say, and we're going to protect that. But never to compromise somebody else's right. Your right to protest doesn't give you the right to infringe on someone else's constitutional liberties.
Okay. I want to take a quick break, but when we come back, what I want to do is talk about that and just roll right into this Halo bill. Yes. Because then people might be, what about the Halo bill? Why can't I record you anymore? Mm-hmm. When we come back from this break, we're going to talk about that, get into that, and that's a hot topic because we're just talking about First Amendment rights, and I feel like it goes right into it.
Yes.
We'll be right back.
I served in Miami-Dade Police Department for 27 years. I held every civil service rank in the department, which means I was an officer, I was a sergeant, I was a lieutenant, I was a captain in 5 different commands, and I retired as the major of the Special Patrol Bureau.
All right.
I supervised the SWAT team, the bomb squad, the aviation unit, so it's every airplane, every helicopter, all the boats in Marine Patrol, all the motorcycles in the motorcycle unit, the divers, the canines, the incident management team, which is why I was the incident commander for the Surfside Building Collapse command post. I want the department to be based on principles, not on scenarios. And what that means is we're going to enforce the law, we're going to put criminals behind bars, but we're going to do it in a way that we're going to ask ourselves and question ourselves. Every operation, every decision we make will be based on, was it fair? Was it respectful? And is it going to violate community trust?
You want to bring us back?
Okay.
Hey, on that commercial break, we played your campaign intro video, or the video you selected to give to us, just to let you know that.
Excellent.
All right, there you go. All right, so let's bring it here. This is we were talking about the First Amendment right before, that you're cool with everyone as long as they protest peacefully. But when they get out of hand, and we're talking about the First Amendment, I was like, man, this is a great time to talk about this Halo bill.
Yes.
I've been weighing in, or getting the candidates to weigh in on this Halo bill that was put together by Hialeah Republican Representative Alex Rizzo. I don't know, Al Palacios. They actually met together. They wrote the bill on a napkin. They still have the napkin. And then they presented it, and now it's been passed. So right now it's Senate Bill 184, enabling police, firefighters, and paramedics to establish a 25-foot no-go zone around themselves, right?
Right.
So, and I read this on other podcasts, the actual verbiage, but let's just summarize it. If you're within your legal duties as a law enforcement officer or first responder, that includes paramedics and firefighters sometimes, if you're within your legal duties, somebody comes up harassing you, preventing you from doing your job, has nothing to do with the situation that's going on, you can now tell them, hey, my man or my lady, you can record, just do it 25 feet away.
Right.
If they come and come within that radius, now they can be arrested,
Right.
According to this law. So I just want to get your thoughts on it, the whole idea of recording to police, and just everything that surrounds it, because it's a hot topic. So,
Right.
Mike is yours.
Well, I can answer that in 10 seconds.
Yeah.
And that is, I support it wholeheartedly, 1,000%.
Okay.
And the reason why is because everyone has a First Amendment right? And by the way, police is not free of the responsibility of being recorded when there's no expectation of privacy and everything else.
Right.
Anybody can record.
Right.
The problem is that a lot of these people are just agitating. They're
Right.
not recording to protect truth.
Right.
They are recording to agitate and to put officers in a bad position and instigate issues, and that's a problem. And so it's a huge officer safety concern for officers. You've been around the road, and I don't think they even realize the outcome of that and how it's going to affect the person that the police is trying to interact with to begin with.
Right.
Right? Because if now I have to focus on two things and I got to keep you because you're right on top of me, it's just something it's amazing that we even have to have this conversation and have to build a law around this.
Yeah.
But I have no problem with anybody recording police. As a matter of fact, we are recording.
Right.
We're recording all the time. There's a reason for that. If you look at the body-worn camera program, the body-worn camera program is not designed to protect the officer. The body-worn camera program is not designed to protect the subject. It's designed to protect the truth.
I like it.
That's what it's for.
Yeah.
And so as long as you're recording and you're doing it from 25 feet and it's not influencing this case in any way, shape, or form, you're fine with it. And you should be legally justified in recording. But don't get in the officer's face and don't interrupt what he's trying to do because it affects everybody's safety.
Right. And that's also that can also not only be for recording, that's just in general, like
Right.
that harassment, right?
Right.
So let's say you have the camera, but I'm the guy who's going to go walk up to the officer and start antagonizing.
Of course.
And you're over there recording. I
Right.
can tell you, no, or me,
Yes.
whoever does not have the camera, go stand by your buddy over
Right,
there
right.
because I'm dealing with something
Yeah.
right now. And I want, and maybe we can clarify this a little bit and talk a little bit about it because there are times on a scene, right? So if something happens, a family member comes out and they just want to document it. This bill is not designed for those family members that are just maybe
Right,
for
right.
insurance or something. They're just recording everything, but they're being quiet. This is not for that. This is for
Exactly.
the harassment. So if you whip out your phone and you're recording the police, that's fine. Record the police. It's the moment you engage with that officer.
Right.
You take them off of that.
Exactly.
So, go ahead.
And remember, a lot of it is when they're antagonizing the officer. They're doing it on purpose.
Right.
You know, and that's what, it offers protections to the officer for that reason. But I agree with you.
Yeah.
Any single person can stand there and record the police.
Yeah.
Any single person. And that's fine. We're recording you.
Yeah.
You know, but we're doing that because we're trying to protect the integrity of that scene and the integrity of the decision-making considerations that we were making at the time.
Yeah, I like the bill. There's a little bit of confusion. People are saying it's a slippery slope. First it's 25 feet, then it's going to be 50 feet, then it's going to be no recording.
Right.
That's absolutely not the case. We're talking about the safety of everyone involved, right? The person recording, the individual we're dealing with, and ourselves.
Right.
We'll say that last, right? So, anyways, let's move on. We'll go right into this crazy time that we are embarking on here. We're coming up to November, right? Can you explain a little bit before we get to the actual big elections of right now we're in, let's call it July, right? We're in July. We're about to hit July. What's up for these elections now with the sheriffs? Because this is the first time that we've had it in 66 years, right?
Since 1966.
1966.
So I think it's at 58 years.
No, it's okay, 58. No, it's like 67 years.
I'm not a mathematician.
All right,
I believe it's
wait,
58.
Can't be. What is it?
Since 66.
Yeah.
66?
Yeah. We're in
We're doing math.
2024.
We're doing
Yeah.
58 years?
58 years?
Didn't I say that? Go back to the recording.
If it's
That's what I said.
1966.
Said 50. It's my bad. I suck at math. All right, here
From
we go.
1966 to 2024 is 58 years.
Are you sure? She's an accountant.
It is 50. Yeah. If it's 1966.
All right. I trust you guys. All right, here we go. So this is historic. However, I don't think, I don't know, I know you weren't alive when the last sheriff wasn't. And if anyone was alive, they were kind of young and maybe not paying attention to the process.
Right.
So let's educate a little bit. We're in, let's call it July. What happens up until the actual election date? Is there any major things that are happening for the candidates?
Yeah. So there's 3, let's call them mile markers.
Right.
Right? We all love the keys, mile
Yeah.
markers. So what happens is there's 3 opportunities to vote, and each one is equally as important. And I'm going to tell people that if you vote by mail, I know the concerns with it, but you can vote by mail. It's very safe in the state of Florida. The law changed. You have to request the ballot every year now. That's part of getting rid of that the perception of improprieties in there. But in exactly 28 days now, on the 20th of July, absentee ballots drop.
Okay.
That is the public's first opportunity to vote on this election. Their second opportunity is during early voting, which is 2 weeks before August 20th.
Okay.
And so you have a specific amount there where you can go early vote, miss all the lines, get rid of all the, avoid all the lines and get there.
Right.
And then the last option to vote is on August 20th, which is actual election day.
Right.
I encourage people to take advantage of at least 2 of those windows. Why? Because if you wait till the last day and you get there and the line is really long, you're going to go, and this idea, this concept that my vote doesn't matter.
Yeah.
What's my vote? The line is long. I'll leave. Somebody just lost a vote there.
Yeah.
And this election with that many candidates, I hate to exaggerate this, but 3 votes can make a difference.
Yeah.
Right? So I would encourage absentee ballots is a good option. Why? Because you do it. You still have 1 or 2 weeks to verify that your vote was counted if you're concerned about it getting lost.
Okay.
Your second window to vote, to make sure that your vote counted, is those 2 weeks of early elections.
Right.
And then, or early voting. And then your last vote, let's say that something happened, you couldn't make those 2, now that would be your last option. But don't make August 20th your first option.
I could imagine that it's going to be a pretty crowded voting booth area because of the magnitude of this presidential election. You guys are going to be on the card with the presidential elections, correct?
Right. Which is good and bad.
Yeah. So it's good because you get, the volume of people out there?
Right.
Bad. Why?
Well, it's bad because the presidential, it's very polarizing.
Yeah.
That election is going to be very polarizing.
Yeah.
And what that does, it becomes so polarizing that people will go down the ballot and vote on party, not on issues.
Like red, blue, 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 blue.
Yes. And I'm a firm believer in that, and I've said it, I think we talked about it before. I agree that this should not be a partisan race. This is public safety. There should be no politics in this.
Yeah.
But it is a partisan race. These presidential races bring out a little bit of extremism and political tribalism.
Yeah.
And that's what we're trying to avoid when all we're worried about is having a safe neighborhood for our families. And that's what really matters. So vote off of that.
Do you, now that I'm thinking about it and what you just said there, because there's so many, do you think that people are trying to lock up a certain type of person's vote and just cater to that one group? Like, what I mean by that is, like, you have, in politics, you have the moderates, then you have the far right, you have the far left,
Right.
All that. Is there anybody now? Because I can imagine, how many people are in the race? It's like 17?
I think like right now 16, 17.
16? Whatever. There's a lot of
2
people.
people came out, 1 new guy came in. So yeah.
New guy came in. Okay, so you have all these candidates. Are they like, man? Is there any strategy where they're just going after one certain group? You see
Yeah,
that?
unfortunately, the strategy for a general election is different. It's different than the strategy for a primary election.
Right.
So yeah, there is strategy. They're going to go after, and unfortunately, that's what politics is about.
Well, that's what I wanted to ask you. I don't think we covered that. When is it whittled down to 2 candidates? Does it, or is
The
it
August 20th election,
Uh-huh.
and those 3 opportunities to exercise your vote on that for that particular primary, that's going to determine it, because there's only going to be 1 Republican candidate and 1 Democratic candidate.
Okay, I got you. Okay, so after August 20th, then it goes into November. Those 2 candidates move forward,
Right.
and then there's about, all right. So
It'll be myself against the Democratic candidate.
there you go. That's what I like. Maybe that's what I like. So okay, so you got, all right. So I was. Were you following on that?
Yes.
That there was a there was a primary,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
I'm
It's
just
2 different elections.
I'm ignorant to that. There's not going to be any presidents on that
Not on the primary,
Not on
but
the
there
primary.
will be on the November
on
election.
the big ticket.
Right.
Okay, I got you. Following now. I'm tracking.
Hmm.
Back to the Dick Off Duty podcast. She even went with it. So while we're on the topic of the campaign, it's been almost a year now. It has been a year since you've been on. Maybe you can talk about some of the challenges that you faced and some of the what do you call when you succeed?
Successes.
Successes. There you go. Welcome to the Dick Off Duty podcast. All right.
couldn't be more appropriate.
Some of the failures and successes that you had so far on the trail.
Right. So I got to be honest. There's not. I'll talk about challenges, not
Challenges.
failures.
Did I say failure?
We haven't had any failures. Luckily, we haven't had any failures. As far as successes, I received the endorsement of the Hispanic Police Officer Association. Now, a lot of people are talking about endorsements.
Yeah.
And I get it. And I would too. Remember, look, in this campaign and in politics, we're all going to talk about the attributes, and we're going to talk in the light most favorable to us.
Right.
So every candidate is going to do that about themselves.
Right.
But I think there's meanings behind every one of these things. And what I mean by that is, shouldn't be a political thing, although it is.
Yeah.
So I'm not looking for political endorsements. I'm looking for endorsements that mean something. And why does the Hispanic police officer endorsement mean something to me? Because the president of the HPOA said, wait, this is a law enforcement, organization. I'm not going to make the decision myself. There's men and women here that are in law enforcement that know the deficiencies of the department. They know the needs. They know the successes. They know the landscape of the department. They are going to make the decision for this organization. And so it's the only organization that allowed their members to have a voice in who is getting endorsed. And the reason why that's meaningful to me is because I received a overwhelming landslide level of support from the men and women who wear this uniform, that know this department and know this community. And I got more than double the votes than the person that came in number 2.
So the HPOA, is that specific to Miami-Dade Police Department, or is that the region?
Yeah, they're regional. They have
okay.
different.
Okay.
Yeah, mostly Miami-Dade, obviously,
Right.
but it's got.
I know we have it. I don't know if it's a chapter. I know we have it at our department as well.
Right. So that one was meaningful to me. The challenges. Look, here's the challenge. The challenge is there's so many candidates in the race.
Yeah.
There's a lot of noise in the race. If you remember, and this is why we talked about the constitutional part and how it's important. You cannot be a candidate in this race. Because look, there's the MDPD thing. The department doesn't want anybody from the outside. That's normal.
Yeah.
City of Miami wouldn't want anybody from the outside coming in. Generally, they want somebody from inside that understands the culture. Miami-Dade is the same way. So let's look at it from a departmental point of view first. And then let's look at it from a political party point of view. But there are candidates in this race who jumped in this race. Look at the chronology. It was myself and Freddie Ramirez.
Yeah.
We were the competitive candidates in the race. And by all intents and purposes, he was lead. But it's important to know why I jumped into the race and when that happened. And then we're going to make comparisons. I jumped into the race, and by the way, if Freddie would have been running, originally I would have been holding picket signs for Freddie.
Yeah.
Okay? Freddie is a good friend of mine. He's one of the most genuine people I know. I love Freddie. But what happened was, if we're getting out of this structure and going back to a sheriff to be independent of any political influence, and I know Freddie personally. We rode together as sergeants in narcotics in the same car in Liberty City back in TNT. I know what Freddie's values are. I know what I know he's a very conservative person. And the fact that they convinced him, as conservative as he is, and with the values that he's have, they convinced him or forced him, whatever it was. I never spoke to him directly about that. So this is not about Freddie. I just want to let you know. I'm not saying a negative thing about Freddie.
Right.
But the influence was such that he changed parties and compromised what I know his values are to get the political support, to get the campaign money, to get the fundraising, to get the consultancy from the mayor. Already I know that we're not going to be independent. We have to acknowledge that. And that being the case, I said, okay, he changed parties.
Yeah.
We can't have that. We're no longer going to be independent. I don't agree with that. We have to be and that's when I jumped in the race. But I jumped in the race against the gargantuan, against Goliath, right? Because he was the incumbent. He was the one that had everyone's support. Nobody else jumped in back then.
Right.
Nobody jumped in back then. As a matter of fact, you cannot today talk about endorsements and talk about, because it's a partisan race, look around and listen to the candidates. And this is what I ask the viewership to do. How can you stand here today and tell me the importance, because it's partisan, the importance of electing a person with conservative values, a person that's a Republican, a real Republican, and that's what we need to do? They're saying that because it's a partisan race. But you can't say that when you were supporting Freddie knowing he was a Democrat. As a matter of fact, look down the list. It's all public record. Look at the number of candidates that are running as Republicans saying that it's super important to elect a Republican, yet they were donating money to the Democrat, the Democratic Party. In other words, that PAC or that PC that Freddie had, that all that money went to, is now being used by their new Democratic Party against the very same people. So it's hypocritical, and then you have to really question people's, number one, intention, and number two, their integrity when they do something like that. So that becomes really important. So, and what are the other challenges? I mean, look, I'm sitting here in candidate forums. Right. I want to have a debate. I want to have a one-on-one debate with somebody that I can challenge what they say, because on these candidate forums, they're very well-intentioned, and I said this on another podcast, but it's absolutely true. There's 12 candidates sitting up there.
Yeah.
They're asking the same question. Question number one, the guy answers. Number two follows number one. Number three mixes what 2 and 1 said. Number four, you have 60 seconds to answer.
Yeah.
So, and I can't challenge the disasters that I'm hearing some of these candidates say. I have to keep a straight face. I have to sit there when I listen to a colleague of mine that I've known for 25 years, and by the way, there's several of them up there, saying things, and I have to sit there, I have to keep a stoic face and kind of act. But what I really want to do inside my body is going, dude, I've known you for 25 years. Nothing that you've said have you done. Nothing that you're saying do you have a history with. So what I ask the viewership and I ask everyone to do is to be skeptical. Be skeptical of everyone, because everything that shines is not gold. There's a lot of people saying things. There's a lot of people repeating things that we've said that don't understand what they're saying, but it sounds good for a soundbite. So I'd like to sit down and challenge. I've heard some of the things that some people have said that I'm like, number one, you've never done that. Number two, you have absolutely no clue what you're talking about. And number three, that's impossible.
Yeah.
What you're describing is impossible. So those are the challenges.
Maybe we could set something up, but I don't know. There's so many, like you say.
That's
right?
the problem. So, the challenges are this: no media. A debate is not valuable unless it's like just 2 or 3 people in the room.
Yeah.
That's when a debate is valuable. We have 12 people. We have people in this race who have literally looked at me in the face and said, Mario, I know I'm not going to win. I know I'm not going to win. I'm here because look at the name recognition that I'm getting.
Yeah.
And when a smaller city chief retires, I'm already on the news. They can possibly give me that job. That's what we're fighting here. So what I ask the public to do is to be skeptical and research everybody. It's not what they say. Look up not only what they're saying, and then look that up in their history. The best predictor, the best indicator of future performance is past performance.
Yeah, I was gonna say
not
that.
what they say,
Yeah.
what they've done.
Oh, you got me thinking about this debate stuff. We got a lot of space out in the Feds Apparel showroom. We could even promote it on fedsapparel.com, where you can get all your uniform needs. Feds Apparel. Hey, listen. Speaking about experience, and I want to get into some scenarios. But before that, we're going to take a quick commercial break.
Excellent.
You like that?
I do.
Introducing the MPS Defender. This is a folding convertible ballistic shield for personal and vehicular use. Perfect for the day-to-day patrol officer and versatile enough for any special operation assignment. The shield in a folded configuration is 21 by 15 inches. Unfolded, your mobile area of cover is now 36 by 15 inches. It has 4 loops to attach a sling so the user can wear it slung over their back. The interfacing MOLLE panel system allows you to attach any extra gear necessary. On the front of the shield, you have bright LED lights that can be activated ambidextrously via the rear handle's dual buttons. The shield itself weighs 7 pounds with its included level 3A soft armor, which stops up to 44 Magnum as well as buckshot and slugs. Adding a ballistic plate insert brings the weight up to only 11 pounds, while stopping up to M80 and M855 rounds. The MPS Defender includes a mount allowing you to attach the shield to any car door for rapid deployment. To learn more about this life-saving piece of equipment, visit mpsdefender.us. And we're back! So I want to talk about some scenarios. But before we do that, I thought this would be fun to talk about. This morning, I found my hat in the garage, and I put it on, right? That's what you do when you can wear a hat, right? You put it on. But I felt something tickling my head. And I was like, oh, there's something in it. So, and then I continued packing up my gear and started walking to the car, and I felt something tickling my head. I said, oh, let me check out what's tickling my head. Took it off. Giant spider crawling around my head, on my head. God. Yeah. So it bit me, and I can throw webs out of my hands. No, I'm just kidding.
Was it black with a red?
No. No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, so I had a spider crawling around my head, and I thought it would be fun, to get off topic. You ever had any close encounters with any bugs? Are you scared of any bugs? Any insects?
I can tell you my first SRT call out with a freaking toad.
Yeah. Let's hear about it real quick.
All right, so we have a barricaded subject. It was my first real call out.
So SRT is like SWAT. So people that are watching,
yeah,
might know.
it's the SWAT team. I was a grenadier in the SWAT team. And
shoots grenades.
Yeah, and so I don't like toads.
Yeah.
And
what about frogs?
Well, what's the difference? To me, there is no difference.
Okay.
But anyway, we're there for about 3 hours. I've got my area of responsibility. I'm all by myself. First call out. It's one of those things where after you're in the SWAT team for a while, you can kind of relax. But on this one, I'm tense. I'm looking at my window and I'm laying down, and the next thing you know, I feel next to me, and then I feel it. And it gets louder, and when I look, it was the biggest, proudest frog, toad, like standing there, like staring at me.
Bufo toads.
And I'm like, I have to visually do this, right? Yeah. So I look at it, and I'm like,
pretend the toad is on this side so the camera can see you. What do you do?
I'm like, trying to get this thing off, but I don't want to move a muscle because I don't want to give away my position. You're overly cautious, and the whole time I'm like, I'm a SWAT guy. Leave it alone.
Yeah.
Just don't pay attention to it. Can't kill me. And then I hear it again. And all of a sudden it hit me, and I'm like, it's on my back. I convinced myself that it was on me. So I stand up.
Yeah.
I do my whole thing. I look around. I don't see it. Now I'm like, okay, but the one thing I'm not going to do anymore is lay prone.
Okay.
So now I'm on my knees, and I'm like this, doing what I do. And the time comes to go tactical. I take everything off. I put my gas mask. I go to deploy gas. I couldn't deploy gas because of the angle. I couldn't do it from where I was, so I had to come out of cover and do it.
Yeah.
But by this time, it's been like 2 hours, and I'm kneeling down, and my foot was asleep. So now I'm walking towards the window, dragging this dead leg, and the whole time I'm thinking, if the media is up watching this, it's like I've always said, if they did a realistic movie about police work,
yes,
it'd be a comedy.
Hilarious.
It'd be a comedy. It wouldn't be but that's my
that's
my animal
toads.
story.
So, in what you said exactly, I said it when I was maybe like 3 or 4 years on. I was like, man, if we could record everything that happens in police work, it would be hilarious.
Yeah.
We can't.
Right.
I don't know if the department would allow things, and it's not what the officers personally are doing. It's just stuff that they encounter and things that happen. It's like
Reno 911.
Exactly. What about you over there?
Oh, I don't like anything.
You don't like anything?
No.
But anything ever happened to you?
I was walking out of the garage the other day, and I opened the garage door, and this huge
toad
frog just like walks inside the garage. So I just took off running, and my daughter's screaming, "Mommy!" I'm like, "Oh my God, there's a frog in the garage, babe! There's a frog in the garage." I call him. It's like, "Okay, babe, what do you want me to do?"
What do you want me to do?
I just I ran.
I'm at
like
work.
I had seen a ghost.
Right.
So ran in.
So she's on the toad thing with you.
Yeah, no, I don't like frogs or
Cockroaches.
Cockroaches.
How do you do with cockroaches?
I'm not that bad.
Not that bad. Yeah, and we got cockroaches probably the size of this, and it's just Florida. It's Florida living. Palmettos.
Nope.
Quick, probably 15-second story. I was home. I used to live in my parents' garage. They built a room. They built a room with an AC unit. When I was
El efficiency.
Yeah. Eso. So I was 20s, early 20s. A little I went out partying, right? And I came home and I fell asleep. And I was deep in my sleep, and the same thing on my head, I felt on my face. And I was like, I just grabbed it, squished, turned my light on because I thought I was dreaming. You know when you dream, when you think something's in the bed, and you grab it and you're holding down, and then you realize, that, oh my God, it's my wife. She's like, stop.
Right.
So I grabbed it, and I'm like, oh my God, am I dreaming? I open up, crushed white, gooey cockroach palmetto in my hand. Yeah, but I felt like you know when you're like, oh, I'm a SWAT guy, I can't do it. I felt like an animal. I was like, yeah, that's what we do.
You felt primal.
Yeah, exactly. I wiped it on my carpet because I was remember I told you I was a little inebriated. Wiped it on my carpet and went right back to sleep.
Right.
Because that's what we do.
That's right.
All right. Not you. You're scared of toads. All right, let's get to the scenarios. The elections are coming up November. This is a great transition, by the way.
Right.
Elections are coming up in November. Last elections, it got a little weird.
Right.
Got a little funny.
Mm-hmm.
Timing, right? Rewind. 2016 was a little funny then too. It intensified 2020, right? And we don't have to talk about it. Everyone lived it. Oh shit! 2024 is coming.
Right.
Things might happen. Okay. You're a conspiracy theorist. No, my man.
Right.
Like you say, look at
You
the
have to
track
be
record.
prepared.
Yeah, look at the track record. Let's be prepared for anything. And it seems as though it's intensifying. And last election cycle, it was really intensified. And from what I see, the police usually get the brunt force of everything. We're easy scapegoats.
Mm-hmm.
Boom, 2016, boom, protest, riots, out of control, disrupt everything. 2020, we had I can't say it because it will get removed from YouTube, but the COOF, as they call it. And then we also had protests, riots, which is okay to riot. You can go outside the riot, just don't. So anyway, so now moving forward, we got this. You become sheriff. You get elected. You're on the ballot. Boom, sheriff. Here comes 2025. There's still some chaos, maybe even some civil unrest. Maybe there's some things going on that the person who got elected in November now, the people don't like that.
Right.
And just it's chaos.
Right.
How do you plan on, or do you plan on, and do you even see that? Because you're coming into
I
now.
do.
And let me finish this. You're coming into the department, even though you were a major there not too long ago, within like a year or two.
2 years.
Yeah, 2 years ago. You're coming into a department, and now you have this to deal with. So
Right.
how do you plan on handling that?
Well, I think first we have to acknowledge that independent of there being the election,
Right.
we have to be prepared for that every day.
Mm-hmm.
Every single day. There is no, well, this is coming. I mean, all we do is we have time to forecast training and everything else, but we have to be prepared for that in law enforcement every single day. So that's number one. Number two, we would have to reevaluate. So I come in January 7th.
Mm-hmm.
January 7th is not when the work starts. The day that the work starts is the day after the general election.
Yeah.
Because we still have to start the transition portion of it, the
Right.
transition, handing over the keys to the biggest machinery in the Southeast United States called the Miami-Dade Police Department.
Close to $1 billion budget.
Yeah.
And let me ask you. So November. What's the exact date? Because I suck at politics for the election. Do you know?
I think
November 6th?
November 6th?
November
or
6th.
November 7th. Yeah,
So November 6th,
6th,
7th. So the 8th, you're already. If you win, when you win, you go in and you start.
That's when the team building starts.
Okay. So
Right.
you're gonna get the keys.
Not exactly get the keys. The director and the mayor will still be in charge by
Okay.
charter. They don't hand over the keys until obviously January 7th. However, we will have to start. Formulating the team. You know what I mean? Putting people in position so that the department looks the way we need it to look on January 7th when we take over.
So things might be already happening where they're already dealing with something.
Right.
So you're gonna kind of inherit whatever it is.
We're gonna inherit it,
and then
but-
you can adjust pieces.
Yeah,
as
and
you
we're
go.
gonna have to. Yeah, we're gonna have to. But part of it is to kind of forecast the idea that I know right now there's some equipment deficiencies in the department, and we need to be prepared for it. So that's a huge priority because we can't get caught. Look, the department needs to be ready every day.
Yeah.
I'm not too sure that it's ready right now.
Okay.
And that's what I'm hearing from a lot of people based on what's happening at the quartermaster, what's happening with equipment and riot gear to begin with. So that's something that's going to be a priority that we're going to have to start right on November 8th. We're going to have to start that.
Okay. So you're not. Well, you're worried, but
Mm-hmm.
you're confident that you can go in, take care of business or whatever.
We have a really professional police department.
Mhm.
I know there's some candidates that go in there and they're talking about, well, we got to do this. Of course, we talked about every candidate is going to talk about attributes and place the light in most favorable to their characteristics.
Yeah.
Of course, they're going to do that. But the reality is that we are a professional police department. We have our rapid deployment force. I used to command that unit too. We have our field forces. There's not much that there's not much that we're not going to be ready for. My issue is the equipment and make sure that the whole department as a whole, not just RDF, but the entire department is well equipped and trained for that.
Okay. And let's get a little topical. It kind of falls in line with some of the stuff. You got to pay attention to what's happening around the world.
Of course.
There's things happening in Ukraine. You got things happening in Israel. You got stuff going. World leaders meeting for the first time in years, and they're not friends. They're more on the adversary side. What I'm talking about is Russia and North Korea. They recently met, the two leaders, Kim Jong-un. Please forgive me. I'm trying to sound like I'm politically smart. And then Putin, they met for the first time in I don't know how many years. I'm not, again, people don't like to acknowledge things, but you have to say this is, things are weird right now, right? Things are happening. And if you put your head in the sand, you're going to get kicked in the ass.
Can't do it.
And you're not going to see it coming. So right off of our coast, Cuba, they just had four Russian warships with one submarine docked there. And kind of like a show of force.
Right.
If, let's just say, something's to happen from those ships and they were going to engage somehow.
Right.
It would be South Florida that gets the brunt of whatever it is, right?
Right.
Most densely populated. What am I gonna hit? I'm not familiar. We got Homestead. You got the military base in Homestead, but there might be other targets there. But you got Miami that will be affected, and you're gonna be the sheriff of Miami. Do you see that as an issue? And if so, how do you plan on addressing that? Right, as far as making the communication to people that are above you, right, up in the federal, and then also in the governor, and then community-wise. Like, you got to.
So I think the very first thing is acknowledging what our responsibilities are within that.
Right.
We're not the feds.
Right.
But we're going to have to be, the first thing we need to do is enhance vigilance here, right? If you look at the billboard that happened the other day, I'm sure you heard about it, the Fidel Castro billboard. Yeah. With Donald Trump there.
I don't speak Spanish, but I saw it, the two facing each other, and it said something in the middle. What was that?
So the issue with that, and the issue that I have with that, is to put a photo of Fidel Castro next to a possibly current future president, but with a past president. And especially in Miami, where we have all the Cuban exiles that suffered that. I mean, that's more than insulting. You know what I mean? That's more than insulting. So we have to realize that there's a lot of influence over here that can become dangerous really, really quick, right? So we have to be vigilant, but we're going to have to rely on our relationships with federal partners, and we have our Homeland Security Bureau. We have one we have a real-time crime center. We have all those things, but we have to be vigilant. And for those kind of scenarios, I can't sit here and say the sheriff's office is going to do that. Whoever tells you that, I think, is blowing smoke. Yeah. The reality is that we have to rely on our federal partners, and we have to be prepared for, which we are, for mass casualty attacks, because at that point it would be really response. Right. Military would come in and do everything else if something extreme happens. But we definitely have to be vigilant, and we have to rely on those partnerships.
Yeah. So and I think what the regular Joe citizen, or Miami-Dade Jose citizen, is wondering, does the county communicate with the feds, right? Or does things just happen? Right. For instance, Black Hawk helicopters flying over from Department of Homeland Security, whoever, and then you see it only in Dade, and people are like, what's going on? Are we aware of trainings, things that are happening, that are going to be happening in the county, low-flying aircraft, things of that nature? Is the county informed on that?
We're not informed of everything. Right. The feds don't have to inform us, right? But we do have really good, like I said, we are a really established and well-placed police department, and we have a lot of good relationships with all our federal partners. So I don't think that if there's something that we don't know about, it's not something that's going to influence public safety. Okay. If there was, we would know.
That's okay. So that's the other thing I was going to say. So if it gets to a scale of
for sure.
Okay, good.
For sure.
That's good.
Remember, we also have different agencies within the department where we have deputized officers. We have officers that are
detached.
Yeah, that are detached and have credentials from the FBI. They have credentials from the marshals and stuff like that. Yeah. I used to be the captain of warrants. So we had a lot of guys that
Okay.
serve dual purposes.
And those guys are like, hey, I don't know if you know. No.
Yeah.
So, all right, continuing to move on some current events. There was, do you have the squatter bill?
I
ready?
do. Yeah.
Oh, she's good. Oh, you pulled it up even on my computer?
Yes.
Oh, she's good. So good. I threw a curveball at her. She knocked it out of the park. Well, let's see what she pulls up first.
Hold on, because this is definitely different than my computer. But
New squatter bill went through.
Yes.
Again, I don't know why. Halo bill. Why do we need this? Squatter bill. I didn't even know like why this shouldn't have been a thing. It should have been like illegal from the beginning. But new squatter bill makes it. It was a pain in the ass to get people out of your property that didn't live there. They weren't renters. There was no lease agreement. They just came in, saw a vacant property, decided they're going to come there and establish residence, and now they're squatting on your property. And you need to go, as a homeowner, go and evict them. Go through the process of eviction, costs money, attorney's fees, or whatever it is. It's just a pain in the butt. Now, with HB, which is House Bill 621, a property owner can request a law enforcement officer to immediately remove a squatter from their property if the following conditions are met. The individual has unlawfully entered and remains on the property. The individual has been directed to leave the property by the owner, but has not done so. And the individual is not a current or former tenant in a legal dispute. So I want to move into the homeowner stuff, right? And then we're going to get to the homeowner association stuff. So just weighing on this bill that just passed not too long ago.
Yeah. So it's important to differentiate this from an eviction.
Right.
An eviction is a legal process.
Correct.
And an eviction is designed to get a person out who had a legal contract, who had a lease agreement, had something, and now for whatever reason, let's just say they don't pay the rent for 2 months, and you go through an eviction process. That's a legal process. This is different. This is now a criminal statute. And why? Because what's the difference? A squatter unlawfully occupied this residence without, or this location, whatever you want to call it, or occupied it without the consent, and there was no agreement. There was nothing. This person literally unlocked the door or broke a window or whatever it is, got in and established residency, totally independent of the owner's permission or contract or any agreement. So this is somebody who basically burglarized a house.
Correct. And
went in. Now, why were we not able to do anything? Because the law didn't exist at the time. So officers, remember, if it's a civil matter,
right?
Civil matter is anything that has a contract. So when you would call the police, the officer says, if you follow the eviction law says you will not remove the person.
Right.
Whoever had possession of the property is how they stay until they go through the actual eviction legal process. And that handcuffed the officers, and they couldn't do anything. Which is obviously frustrating for a homeowner. So I'm on 100% agreement with this. A squatter is a burglar. Not fully by statute, but they broke into the house illegally, occupied the residence, and now we have a vehicle to take them out.
So as sheriff of Miami-Dade County, now you have a little tool. Is there something maybe that you're going to be proactive about? Or is that going to be that just like when the officers come across it, that they'll be able to use that tool?
Well, I mean, it depends. You have to measure twice and cut once, right? So we're not going to start right off the bat. Me sitting here as I am right now, we're not going to start a squad initiative. Well, we do have a squad. But what I'm saying is we're not going to establish an entire initiative just for this, because I don't know in today's world that it's such a problem that we need to attach full-time people to it.
Touche.
Right? But we will if we have to. Yeah. We have to be responsive to what's happening in the community, and we're going to do that. We're going to be a principle-based department, not scenario-based.
So what's happening in the community? We have the homeowners association fraud that's happening. I've seen you speak on it, myself and my lovely wife over here. We do have a homeowners association, but it's how much do we pay?
It's like $145.
$145. She does all the bills, and she dresses me. She picked this up. So 140.
I like the shirt.
Thank you. It's Father's Day just passed. There it is. It's a little spinoff with G.I. Joe. So we have it's 145. So it's nothing crazy. Every now and then they say, hey, clean your roof, or what's up with that grass, or do the driveway,
or the assessments.
Well, What?
Those pop up from time to time.
Yeah, those special assessments.
Yeah.
Now, I lived in a community prior to that was a little bit of pain in the butt with special assessments.
Yeah.
They're like, so I don't know why I did that.
So it was perfect. It was perfect.
Sweet. So anyway, so these special assessments that pop up, and we decided we want to do this, and you have no say. You should have came to the meeting and voted. La 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 la. Can you educate me a little bit, because I'm a little bit ignorant to some of the fraud that's going on with this homeowners association?
I'm going to say something comical, but
Do it.
isn't it funny, though, that after I started mentioning it, now every candidate is talking about home association fraud. But they haven't done the work that I've done. They haven't sat down with investigators. They haven't gone to home association meetings and listened to the victims. They haven't sat with victims when they're first there for their first consultation to figure out how these crimes are occurring and what's happening. So this is why I tell you there's a lot of noise in the race. It's very easy. It's very easy to jump into the race 6 months later and then just echo what you're hearing when you don't even understand the problem.
Yeah, because
So-
and just to say what piggyback off what you're saying is, been a law enforcement officer going on almost 20 years now, and never really heard about it.
Right.
So for you to know this stuff, you have to have gotten involved somehow
Exactly.
and
Right,
figured
right.
some things out.
Yeah,
So-
I even gave, so I'll say that later, but unfortunately, Miami-Dade, we are the, I'm going to use this term, we are the incubator for all kinds of fraud. From medical fraud to pharmaceuticals fraud to real estate fraud to mortgage fraud to income tax fraud. And now, and I'm not saying it's new, but
Yeah.
now it's the newest one on the radar. It's home association fraud. And it's, forget about the fact that it's unethical. Forget about that. It's literally abusive to the people that live there. So basically what they do is, not all home associations are bad. In fact, the intent of a home association and condo association is good. The problem is that you have these opportunists that take these boards, and there are so many ways that they're committing fraud. There's so many ways that they're cannibalizing the residents, and we identified that. In fact, I made a suggestion for this last legislative session that there's an organization called the DBPR, the Department of Professional Regulation, Business Regulation. They are the ones that kind of oversee the home associations. They are not investigators. They're a state organization. They're understaffed. So what I've advocated for is and we're going to get this passed as soon as January 7th happens. We're going straight to Tallahassee and advocate for just one line in the law that says that the state of Florida grants every sheriff's office the authority to investigate and audit under the purview of the DBPR. And once we have that, now we have some teeth. Now we have the ability to walk into a home association and say, hey, under the purview of the DBPR, this is what we're doing.
So it's like getting sworn in by that.
Almost. Yeah.
In other words, just in layman's terms.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And here's the problem with home associations. There are rules, there's not laws. There are rules. So if it says a president will not do this, okay, the president did it. Now what? Well, we don't know. What do we do?
True.
You see what I mean?
And you're playing with people's money.
You're playing with people's money. And
Yeah.
so I saw a case, to give you just one example
Give it
of
to
what
me.
happened. I saw a case. Now, this happens to be a case. I'm not going to mention the name of the building, but they were well-to-do people. I mean, the condos are really, really expensive. These are people that have resources. And they end up, and it's going to get so bad now because of Surfside influenced it.
Right.
These special assessments are going to eat people.
Yeah.
They're gonna basically cannibalize our residents. But what they did was they said, and here's what they did. They said, it's an emergency. We have to do some emergency repairs because we're coming up on our 40-year recertification. When it becomes an emergency, under that HOA law or
Yeah.
that HOA
rule.
contract, they don't have to show and they don't have to be transparent on all the bids. So what did they do? They said, we need to fix this. We need to do that. We need to do this to be compliant. And what they did was they hired their friends,
Cousin Pepe.
a cousin Pepe, who started a new LLC to do all of this. And they came up with this crazy number. It was $27 million over budget, over what it should be. Now, how did it get discovered?
Yeah.
You have a structural engineer that saw this and kind of did the math. He looked at the square footage, recommendation or proposal and said it's impossible. So he got together with a bunch of other owners and said, I'm a structural engineer, but I'm not going to do this because then it's not independent. We're going to hire an independent company. They brought it in, and they found that they were charging like 20,000 square feet per item, per glass, for handrails, for fascia on the roof. And we're talking an overage of $27 million, and it was only discovered because these people had the resources to be able to do their own investigation, and they did, and that's what's happening. This is happening everywhere.
Yeah.
Now, another thing that they're doing, well, there's so many. I won't go into it. It's going to give the other candidates
So they're over budgeting, buying extra supplies just in case. You never know, man. You never know.
Yeah. Well, that's part of it. That's like one aspect. There's many more.
Okay, so that just for the example, over budgeting, getting more supplies, and then the cousin Pepe gets broken off.
Yes.
Which in turn goes into the other pocket of the other guy.
Right.
I kind of figured that, but it's good. It's good.
There's another side to that. They put a lien on it.
Mm-hmm.
They put a lien on it on the house.
Yeah.
Because you can't pay who here, like, I don't want to be insulting here, but if right now I'm your home association and I say to you, I need $15,000 now within 3 months, because if not,
15,000.
15,000.
Yeah.
What regular person can pay that? People that are out there struggling, that are, and some of these people own, and this is the saddest part, some of these people are older people who are retired, have owned their property outright, but the taxes and the home association things are killing them. And now you tell this old couple that owns their place for the last 15 years and says, I need $15,000 right now, and if not, we're going to put a lien on your property. Once you have a lien on your property, you're no longer, and you violate something, you're no longer a voting member of the HOA, right? And then they take your place, and then his little cousin, who has an LLC, bought the house, the property,
bank-owned property, whatever,
for pennies on the dollar. And this is happening everywhere, and it's got to stop. And
$15,000 right on the spot.
Exactly. And so these are just examples of what they're doing, but I've already kind of spoken to some of the senators and some of the state reps who put the thing together. In fact, one of the things I did was I brought in a senator and a state rep to come in and meet the investigators that do this.
Mm-hmm.
That this is all they do. They specialize in this. Because what I told them was, look, I know you have good intentions in writing laws to fix the problem, but if you don't understand the way the crime is being committed, what law can you write?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That. And then like you said, in that instance, there was somebody there that had the resources. And I can imagine you go, get it to maybe an older folks community or somebody that's a little bit older, doesn't have the resources to investigate and say, hey, what is this? They're just getting taken advantage of.
And let me tell you, it's almost like an industry. I had posted something on, I believe it was Nextdoor, talking about home association and condo fraud to my video. And I said something to the effect of, there needs to be a unit in the Miami-Dade Police, an entire section. I'm not talking about 2 detectives. I'm talking about a lieutenant, 2 sergeants, 10 detectives that do nothing but investigate these cases under the purview of the DBPR. That's what we're going to do day one. Obviously, we got to get the legislation done. But either way, we're going to do a full-time section for this, specifically dedicated to that. But when I mentioned that, an attorney writes and says, the vehicle for the investigation is already there, but residents are lazy and cheap, and they don't want to pay for the investigation.
So they want to hire a private investigator.
Right.
Yeah.
And so unfortunately that's the case. But my response was, I'm sorry, but no victim of any crime should have to pay for an investigation of any kind. And it's not going to happen here in Dade County.
That's what I was going to say. And then you would have to get a private attorney or private investigator out of your own pocket, because is the homeowner association board going to vote in somebody to investigate them? Right.
And there's a crew right now that does it. They're probably the most knowledgeable in the state of Florida, at least in South Florida. And they're former Economic Crimes Bureau detectives. They specialize in just this. But even they know, we've had conversations that, it's like, when I get in office, I'm putting you out of business. and they're like, good, we need to be out of business. I'm retired. I don't want to do this.
Maybe they go to Broward.
Right.
They don't have that.
Yeah, but they're definitely gonna help us out, because it's a roadmap you have to build. These investigations are very complex.
Yeah.
You can't get somebody that does real estate fraud just because it involves a structure with windows. It's real estate.
Yeah.
You can't get them transfer over and do the same responsibility. It's got to be dedicated for this, because it's very intricate.
All right. This was very interesting.
Yeah.
We're ready to take a quick break.
Yes, we are.
It's going to get hot in here. It's going to get hot. I tell you to lose your jacket, but you got this cool polo on, so I think you'll be all right.
I think I'm good.
All right, when we come back, we're going to get into that hot seat, and then I want to close out with some closing remarks. With that being said, let's take a break. Oh, hey, didn't see you guys there. Just want to take a second to let you know we're broadcasting from Feds Apparel. If you're police, fire, civilian, basically if you wear a uniform, Feds Apparel is the place for you. Visit fedsapparel.com today to check out all they have to offer. I even have a store on there. Feds Apparel, uniforming America. Now let's get back to the show.
I almost look like Willie Diaz in that photo. Sorry.
This one?
Yeah.
That's my boy. Shout out to Willie Diaz. Shout out to Willie Diaz! I'm breaking. He mentioned that, and you get a picture back here. I'll maybe open it up for that shot. He said, I look like Willie Diaz. And Willie, if you're watching this, shout out. Love you, dog. We're going to go into the hot seat. Ooh, there's 4 questions we have 4 questions that we selected from the audience. You have those questions?
Yes, I do.
Okay, so you're going to take the 2 on the right of the...
Okay.
All right, sorry. We're kind of just winging it right now. It's a hot seat. Crazy things happen.
Okay.
So I'm going to go ahead and do the first question.
Go ahead.
Are you ready?
I'm ready.
I'm ready.
Here we go. What is the square root? No, I'm just kidding.
I'm taking this mic off. I'm out.
That's why we become police officers, because we suck at math. Here we go. This is from Watch Lucy Transform 3.0. How will you handle corruption within the Miami-Dade Sheriff's Department?
So interestingly, since June of 2003 or 2023, which is when I jumped into the race, June 1st, I've talked about the importance of having a public corruption unit, an independent public corruption unit, because it was dismantled recently, a couple mayors ago. But the moral of the story is Miami-Dade residents deserve to know that there is a unit that's going to investigate anyone. I don't care if you're a police officer, if you're a police chief, if you're a government employee, if you're a commissioner, if you're a politician, it doesn't matter. If there's allegations of corruption, there needs to be a vehicle designed specifically for that investigation, and we're gonna look at the allegation. We're gonna follow the money. We're gonna look at the bank accounts. We're gonna do what the Miami-Dade residents expect us to do, because I think Miami. Look, just the other day, I don't know the particulars of the case. It doesn't matter, but it doesn't look good when we have commissioners and we have electeds getting arrested. It just happened now in Hialeah. Again, I don't even know what it's about, but I know that it happened. Residents deserve to know that their money is going the right way and that we have a check and balance in the department. One of the things within the department, for example, even on our internal review, our internal cases, when they investigate a case, the internal affairs officers, all they do is find facts. They are a fact-finding entity.
Right.
And then they report those facts to a panel. And they tell the panel, based on all the allegations we heard, this is what we found. But they don't say guilty or not guilty. They say these are the findings, and they hand it to a panel. And that panel now has to determine, based on what they're reading, whether it's going to be sustained or not sustained. One of the things that I think is a problem that needs to be clarified is, or done in a way that's a little more anonymous, is we need to redact who the officer is, what their badge number is, and where they work. Why? Because we need that decision to be made, whether it's sustained or not sustained, to be based on the merits of the case, not on the person. It doesn't matter who the person is. In fact, I don't want to know if he's related to this guy, his cousin's wife's brother, because that might influence the case. So it needs to be redacted. So those are some of the things. Public corruption is a huge priority of mine, and it's been since day one. And again, it's been everyone else's also after we started talking about that.
So public corruption, and again, it could be my ignorance to the subject. Is that just internally, or does it also investigate like commissioners? Is that something from the state level?
If it occurs within Dade County, we're going to investigate it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Sounds good. Do you have the second one?
Yes, second question.
All right.
What do you plan to accomplish in your first year as a sheriff?
I think we're going to see. So here's the funny thing. I think crime will rise 3 months into me being in office. Now, that's going to be a soundbite that somebody will use against me, but it's not that crime is going to rise. It's that we're going to report it accurately. And that's not happening right now. Crime is not being reported accurately, and I know that to be the case. So what we're going to do is we're going to fortify our uniform patrol. You're going to see a lot more police officers, uniformed police officers on the street. One of my major priorities is to minimize the amount of time that it takes for officers, the calls holding, and not only that, but response time. And how are we going to do that? We're going to do that by having more officers on the street. When I first got on the department, we had a squad that had 11 or 12 people in it. When I was a sergeant, I had 11 people, 10 people in my squad. Nowadays, these squads are minimized down to 5 people. You have districts that one guy takes a day off, you have to go to 2 area patrol. So that's one of the things we're going to see. Another thing we're going to see is we're going to bring back the tactical narcotics unit. It's going to take me, it'll probably be faster because we'll have that transition time, but I am committed to having the tactical narcotics team back on the street within 3 weeks of taking office. 1 week to build the team, 2 weeks to let the transfers go through. I'm fully committed to that. We have a huge drug problem, and more specifically, we have a huge fentanyl problem. We got to stop looking at fentanyl as a drug. We got to start looking at it as what it is. It's a weapon against humanity. And we need to get that off the street. And how is it that the Miami-Dade Police Department, and we've been talking about this, and I've been mentioning it, yet we still don't have a street-level narcotics initiative that's countywide. We don't have it.
Why is that?
You tell me what that is. It's politics.
Okay.
It's politics. It was removed several directors ago, several mayors ago, because that was around the time, post-Ferguson. It was around the time where literally there was an assistant director who said in the room with the director sitting there, said, if they don't want us on the streets, cleaning up the streets, then forget it. Let's see what happens when hell breaks loose. We're not going to be there. I'm sorry, ladies and gentlemen, that is not how you run a police department. That's like getting mad at your kids and letting them do crack.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's not how you do it. You got to be responsible. We're going to do what I refer to as not proactive policing, but protective policing. Because we have to protect every single neighborhood from fentanyl, from gang violence, from weapon violence, and that's one of the things we're going to see. We're going to re-evaluate the way we're handling prostitution right now. I had several meetings with some human trafficking service providers. One of them was the Glory House, and another one was First Line Response. And we've been collaborating. We've had Zoom meetings, several of them where we have. And one statement was made to me by a former victim, and it changed totally the way I look at human trafficking and even prostitution right now. And her statement was, the problem with human trafficking is that the victims of human trafficking do not recognize themselves as victims in their own story until they're out.
Yeah.
That statement right there just totally flipped a switch in me on how we're going to handle investigations regarding that. Now, I don't want to say how we're going to do it.
Yeah.
We're going to do it. We have a detailed plan. We're about 90% into how we're going to do this and how we're going to, deploy units for that. But it's not something that I want to say publicly because human trafficking is a huge problem. We are number 3 in the country, number 1 in the state. There are a lot of people involved.
Oh, man, that's such a tough thing to do, right? Because people need to know what you're going to be bringing to the table to vote for you. But at the same time, if you say what you're bringing to the table, then the bad guys know what they're going to do.
That's my point.
And know how to circumvent that.
So, and that's the thing. That remember I said we're going to have to be a principle-based department, not a scenario-based department. And the principles is, number 1, is it fair? Number 2, is it respectful? And number 3, is it going to promote public trust? Now, the issue with this is a sensitive type of case.
Yeah.
And I cannot give you a blueprint on how this is going to be done because it's so widespread. It's happening under our nose, and I don't want to give anyone any umbrella to be able to hide under.
Yeah.
We're going to go after it, and we're going to do it aggressively, and we're going to put a dent in it in South Florida for sure.
I like it. All right, let's go on to the next question. Who was that by? Because I don't think you read the name.
Oh, I don't think I did. You're right. This is by True to Ant.
Always send in any questions. Shout out to True to Ant, my dog. I mean, yep, it's a guy. I can see by the picture. All right, this one's by Ishakr. 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 What immediate changes will you make when you take office? I think you kind of hit those already.
Yeah, I think. We're going to establish a public corruption unit. We're going to establish a home association fraud unit. We're going to fortify uniform patrol. But there's one thing that's really important that maybe we didn't talk about, and that is we're going to increase communication all the way down from the top to the bottom.
Okay.
I was a major, even during Surfside. I had 3 captains under my command, not one. Everyone else has a geographical area.
Yeah.
I was providing service to every corner of Miami-Dade County, from Broward down to the county line. Do you know, I usually ask this question, it's a rhetorical question.
Yeah,
but
because I was going to answer it, but go ahead.
So here's the question. How often do you think I spoke to my command staff?
It's a rhetorical question. I don't want to answer.
Don't answer it. Well, I'll tell you this. I will tell you this, that in an 11-month period,
Yeah.
not one meeting, not one phone call, not one text message, not one Zoom meeting, not one smoke signal. The department right now, and I can tell you this, it is a Pepsi can floating in, not even Coke, Pepsi. Okay? Floating in the ocean. There's no rudder, there's no vision, there's no forward direction, there's no propulsion, there's nothing. We're floating in the ocean. You have majors and captains who have no clue what's expected of them. We had a scenario where 2 chiefs were transferred. They were transferred, and neither one knew why. Neither one knew what their new objective was. They had to call each other and go, "Hey, did you mess up or did I?" You cannot run the largest agency in the Southeast United States with no leadership. You can't do that. So we're gonna change communication, and we're gonna make sure that every police officer knows that if they're out there doing the right thing, we're gonna defend them and stand by them unapologetically.
Love it. The last one.
Okay, I have it here, and this is from Clee09_. What are you going to do that other sheriffs won't do?
It's hot seat.
Let me tell you why I find that question funny.
Yeah.
And by the way, it's not insulting. It's actually a very good question. But it's impossible for me to answer that question because I want everyone to do their research. Every candidate is repeating everything we've been saying since June of 2023. So for all intents and purposes, they're all going to do everything that I've been talking about, you know? And I know that sounds weird, but it's the truth. I don't know what they're going to do. So it would be hard for me to predict and give you like a comparison of what I'm going to do and what they're going to do. I'm going to tell you, I know what we're going to do. We have a clear plan for every single one of them. We're going to restructure the department. We're going to make public safety the main thing. We're going to reevaluate every single initiative that the department does, and we're going to be a principle-based police department. Every promotion, every initiative, every investigation, every operation is going to be based on the 3 principles that I talked about.
Okay. Is that it?
That is it.
Hey, you survived the hot seat! It was a quick one, but I wanted to give you the time. I'm going to change it back, cool it down a little bit. Because those are purple, right? Yeah. And these are blue? No. Does that look right? No. That looks right?
I think it looks great.
Wait, I think it's that. You good over there? Yeah, because those are blue.
Yeah.
All right, we cooled it down a little bit. Congratulations, you survived the hot seat. Not too bad. You were just, bobbing and weaving. It was nice and easy for you.
Well, wait, because bobbing and weaving would imply that I was avoiding questions.
Oh, true. Okay,
then I took every question.
Then you were headbutting all the questions.
Yeah.
Okay, sounds good. So there you go. You took it straight on like a champ. So, with that, I want to open it up. Give you the floor, and maybe I'll ask some questions on what you're saying. Right. But I just want to address the audience. There's a lot of stuff that's been going on, and maybe you want to talk about something you just haven't had a chance to, or this is something you want to address that it's on your mind. It's I wish we could talk about this. This is the opportunity. Yeah. So I'm going to give you the floor.
Well, look, we're 30 days away from voting. Mm-hmm. This is going to be the most impactful election in Miami-Dade County, and actually, I'm going to say it's probably going to be even more directly impactful to the residents of Dade County, even more so than the mayor's race. This is going to determine the foundation and the forward trajectory of public safety in Miami-Dade County, and it's going to have that impact for the next 20 or 30 years. So experience, but integrity and candidate characteristics are going to make a huge difference in this race. And so we've talked before about how every this is normal. This is an election. Right. I'm going to say that I'm the best person. That guy's going to say he's the best person. And all the ideas that I'm going to present are to the light most favorable to me, right? But there's one thing, again, that I think people forget, and I do this every time. Be weary of some of the conversations that people are having, and be skeptical. That's all I'm asking is be skeptical, and here's why. There are a lot of people that are using the term transition. We are transitioning from a Miami-Dade Police Department to a sheriff's office. You need political experience. You need a politician here to do it. Another person, obviously, I know all these people, right? Another one will say you need a legal background. I'm an attorney. I'm the best person to guide this transition. You have other people that say, no, I was a PBA guy. I was a rep. You need somebody with that experience. Everyone is going to say something that's most, in the light most favorable to them. But here's what people are forgetting. If you look at this badge, what does it say there under major?
Let me take a look. Says Sheriff's Office, Miami-Dade County. Put it up there.
Now, why do I say that? So first, I've had 5 of these because I've had every civil service rank. I was well rooted in every single rank. You've never heard of me go from one place to another within a year. It's never been that way. I've been an officer for a long time. I was a sergeant for a long time. I was a lieutenant for a long time. I was a captain for a long time, and eventually a major. But every single one of these says sheriff's office because the Miami-Dade Police Department has always been a sheriff's office. We have never stopped being a sheriff's office. We could not call it a sheriff's office because we did not have a duly elected sheriff. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So why do I say that? Because all the constitutional responsibilities of the sheriff's office have been there. They've been intact. Now, the fact that it was run by a political person named a mayor, and maybe that we didn't exercise some of the responsibilities of a sheriff the way they should be met because politics were involved, that's a different story. But structurally, we are a sheriff's office. Now, a lot of these people are going to try to confuse you, and they're going to tell you that you need this, you need that, you need that. No, we've always been a sheriff's office. This is very simple. We're going to change the name from police department to sheriff's office. They're going to hand over the keys, and we're going to inherit, again, the largest piece of machinery or public safety machinery in the Southeast United States. Now, obviously, yes, they're going to make arguments that, yeah, but no, you don't understand. We're going to lobby. We're going to do this. We're always going to lobby.
Right.
I don't need a legal background to run a police department. When I was writing use of force policies and we were on committees, I would ask for legal advice. I don't want, and no business person that you ever know, the effective ones, the determination on whether they're effective is not whether they're attorneys or not. They have attorneys who give legal advice. And I've always, in the private industry when I was there, I had 3 attorneys working with us. I asked for legal advice to go towards a goal, right? And I asked them, do we have legal sufficiency? And if we don't, what are the challenges going to be? But the direction is the direction. The vision is the vision. And I say that because everything else that we do is nothing but administrative. Yes, we're going to handle all of our contracts. Yes, we're going to renegotiate a lot of things. But those are things that you do with the guidance of attorneys based on the visions of the department. Don't listen to people when they try to make their job or their attributes the single most important thing in this. We don't need politicians. The last thing we need here is politicians. In fact, the reason why we're going back to a sheriff's office is to get rid of all the political influence. We're really going to look for a politician? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And of course we have to lobby. Of course we have to do that. Of course we have to work with the commissioners. Of course we're going to restructure the department like any other director would. And of course there's going to be administrative differences in the way we do this. But we are going back to a sheriff's office because we need to make sure that law and order exists. We need a police executive in a position that knows all the challenges, that knows all the deficiencies of the department, knows every level of this department, and knows every corner of Miami-Dade County in order to do that right, not a politician. So that's one of the things that I think is most important. So what I ask everyone is, be skeptical of everyone, look for experience, and the best indicator of future performance is past performance. When you hear someone say, rank doesn't matter, that's because they've never held a rank. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
If I was to, look, the other day I was having a conversation with a restaurant owner, and he says to me, well, but experience really doesn't matter. And I said, he owns 12 restaurants. So I said to him, hey, let me ask you a question. I've been to restaurants since I was 14 years old. In fact, I know the ones I like. I know the ones I don't like. I've made complaints about service. I've liked some food. I'm an expert in restaurants because I've been going to restaurants since I was 14 years old. How do you think I would do in managing every single one of your restaurant? Let me be your regional manager because I've been a consumer, so I know what to do. And at first he says to me, his first response was hell no, I wouldn't have you. And I start laughing. And then he started thinking, and he says, but then again, after 2 or 3 years of training, maybe you can do it.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. But now let's translate that over to law enforcement.
Yeah.
Do you want to wait 2 or 3 years on the absolute most important aspect of living, and that is public safety? You want to wait? You want somebody that's going to learn the ropes as they go? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's an irresponsible idea.
That's good. Especially with everything we were talking about like scenarios and things are bubbling up here and there. Having somebody come in and being able to just day one get in there.
Right.
It's just a matter of lacing up.
And when you hear people talk, look, people are going to give, like, there's ranks and then there's positions.
Right.
Those are two different things. Like, you'll hear people say, I was this rank, that rank, that rank. Then they give a position and then another rank because it sounds like another rank. Bro, you're using terms. But again, be skeptical. Listen to everyone. You cannot manufacture 27 years of experience in the most highly volatile, high-profile assignments in the Miami-Dade Police Department and not have a single controversy in the department ever. You can't manufacture that 3 months before the election. There are a lot of people talking about their attributes and what they've done, but if you really look down, go further than what they're saying. And again, I'm going to tell you, fact check everything I say. Don't believe anything I say.
How would they do that? How would somebody go about looking up
public records requests?
Okay, that's what I was going to say.
You can do a public records request, and as a matter of fact, let's not do a public records request just to the Miami-Dade Police Department. Let's do it to the government center. Why in the government center? Because there are two ways to grab somebody. These are little secret tidbits. There's a personnel jacket that is in the Miami-Dade Police Department where a lot of the stuff that was there gets removed after 2 years, but it's never removed from the one at the 111 building, which is the government center. Go there, and it's gonna be interesting what you find on some of the candidates and some of the investigations, some of the internal affairs investigations, some of the findings that they've been involved in, because this has to be something based. I was at an event, and I'll shorten it with this. Representative David Barrero, yesterday, I was at the Christian Family Coalition. And he thought, out of all the speakers, he gave what I thought the most impactful speech. And he talked about courage, and he talked about cowardice, and he talked about facing things head on and doing things. And John F. Kennedy had mentioned one time, we went to the moon not because it was easy, but because it was hard. And all those things made me think about this race and the way it's played out. Why is it that none of these people jumped in the race when it was hard, when Freddie was there? What opportunistic tendency did they have that it took Freddie to get out of the race for them now to jump in, and now they're concerned about, so they're not doing it because they weren't doing it when it was hard. They're doing it now because it's easier or perceived to be easier. And then when we talk about character, it's very difficult for you to come over here now and say the importance of doing this and pick a Republican candidate and do all this other stuff when you were donating to the Democrats. If you're going to be ethical and you're going to be transparent, because some people continue talking about transparency, then let's really be transparent. Do a public records request, go to the elections department, look at some of the candidates and see who they're donating money to. And then you'll start to really inform yourself and get a little more context on when somebody says it's so important to have a Republican. Well, guess what? I'm on the Republican Executive Committee. I did that before I jumped into the race. But I don't want you to base anything on that. I'm talking about integrity, and I'm talking about personal characteristics. And a lot of these people are making it up as they go.
I like it.
Yeah.
Well, can you tell everybody where they can go, how they can support, where they can follow you, where they can donate, where they can join in on the race? Let them know. Where do we go?
Yeah. Okay, so on Instagram, it's Mario for Sheriff. If you can follow me there. If you go to Twitter, I don't do a lot on Twitter, but it's Dade on Twitter. Facebook is I hardly use it, but Instagram is probably the best one. But our website is www.marioforsheriff.com. Now, on the website, here's what I ask. I am not a politician, but unfortunately, to run these campaigns, every single commercial, every piece of literature, everything you record, everything costs money. I'm not using this for happy hour. Believe me. They feel comfortable that everything that you're doing, it's not a donation, it's a contribution towards the safety of Miami-Dade. So I advocate for if you like what I stand for, if you like what I'm saying, if you followed from the beginning and you notice that there's different, not different, everything has been the same. There's been consistency throughout this race. You have to acknowledge that everything we've been saying, we've been leading this campaign cycle when everyone else is repeating what we're saying. That's because we're coming up with innovative and meaningful ideas for the safety of Dade County. If you want to support us, please support us on the website. You can do that. And I don't care how much it is. I don't care if it's even $1. 1,000 is the max. We'll take it. But I rather receive one single dollar from 100,000 supporters than receive $100,000 from a single supporter. Because what that tells me is that we're doing this based on merit. We're doing this on integrity. And at the end of the day, the public, you are picking who you think is the right person. And I think it's super important, especially for a race that's going to determine the safety of your family, of your parents, of your kids, of your grandkids, and it's gonna affect you for the next 20 or 30 years.
Love it. You got anything?
No, thank you for joining us today and sharing your expertise with us.
Thank you so much. And we need to talk about AI. We never did that.
Oh,
at some point we'll come back.
What do we got? 12:45. I'm sure we're gonna. What I want to do is I want to see if maybe I can do a little sparring session with some of the candidates and see how I'm gonna group this and figure something out behind the scenes, and maybe we can talk off camera, or we can set something up. And if the candidates are listening and they're like, "Hey, I'll go," I'm down. So we'll get a pool of people together. Maybe we could do something out here in the showroom.
Right.
But with that, my Rid brother, thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you. Always a pleasure. Always fun to be here.
Yeah, thank you for coming on the show. Always entertaining. I enjoy the conversation, and we still have a lot to talk about in regards to tactics and everything. So I'm sure we're going to be talking soon on the show again.
Excellent.
All right. With that being said,
goodbye.
There she is. She's a little rusty.
Yeah.